One day, Thomas was on his way to High Farm when Rosie stopped beside him. Rosie was a cheerful, chirpy little tank engine. She was always pleased to meet Thomas. She liked him so much that she wanted to be just like him. So she tried to copy him. She tried to wheesh the way he did. She even tried to whistle like Thomas. It made Thomas cross. "Hello, Thomas," puffed Rosie brightly. "What are you doing?" "It's Alice's birthday," chuffed Thomas. "I want to get all her presents up to High Farm in good time." Just then, Harold the helicopter arrived. "Another storm warning, I'm afraid," he shouted. "High winds on the way and heavy rain."
No reason, just ignore them. Where are you off to then?
I'm taking my cars to Crovansgate.
I'm going to Crovansgate too. Want a race? Just to see which of us is the fastest red engine.
Okay, that sounds fun.
1, 2, 3, go!
The next morning, Sir Topham Hatt arrived at Brendam Docks to meet the new engine. Even Cranky was excited. Suddenly, there was a loud sound of pistons pumping. From behind a cloud of steam, a new tank engine puffed slowly out. He was shinier and bigger and stronger than Thomas. "This is Stanley," boomed Sir Topham Hatt. "Welcome to Sawdor, Stanley." "Oh, my," gasped Henry. "Whatever will Thomas say?" But Thomas knew it was too long and too heavy. Stanley started up the hill. It was very steep. Stanley was doing his best. Stanley was using all his huff and all his puff. The trucks clanked, creaked. The train was far too heavy. Stanley's wheels spun and slid. Suddenly, the coupling snapped.
Hey, stop! Wait, what's got into you cars? Oh!
The cars aren't pulling you, Timothy. It's Thomas that's pulling you.
Timothy? Thomas?
Timothy was the little oil-burning engine that worked at the clay pits too. Bill and Ben had played a trick on both him and Thomas.
Oh, don't mind them, Thomas. Bill and Ben are always playing tricks on other engines.
I know all about Bill and Ben and their tricks, Timothy.
You have to admit, though, that was a funny one. Cars can be troublesome, but they don't usually have that much pull. You'd best be careful, Thomas. If a storm comes, the heavy rain can make the clay walls unstable.
Thanks, Timothy. I'll be careful.
Engine twins. Each has 4 wheels, a tiny chimney and dome, and a small squat cab. Their trucks are filled with china clay. It is needed for pottery, paper, paint, and many other things. The twins are now kept busy pulling the trucks for engines on the main line and for ships in the harbor. Away. Bill pretended to be frightened. "You're a big bully," he whimpered. "You'll be sorry." He ran back and hid behind the trucks on the other side. Ben now came forward. "Truck stealer!" hissed Ben. He ran away too. Bill took his place. This went on and on till the diesel's eyes nearly popped out.
A brand new tank engine was racing across the island of Sodor. He was very excited, and he didn't want to be late. "Right on time," said the Fat Controller. Thomas and Percy looked at the big tank engine. He was very smart. "This is Arthur," said the Fat Controller. "He's here to shunt trucks and pull freight." "Nice to meet you," puffed Arthur politely. "And he's got a spotless record," the Fat Controller added. What's a spotless record?" whispered Percy. "It means he's never been naughty or made a mess," replied Thomas. The three engines were working in the big yard, but one morning Toad noticed that Oliver was unhappy. He decided to find out why. "Excuse me, Mr. Oliver, it seems to me that things are not well with you, if you forgive me for mentioning it." "You're quite right, Toad," replied Oliver. "All I do is shunt these trucks onto the turntable. I long for a nice run. It's what an engine really needs." "Quite so, Mr. Oliver. May I suggest that you speak to the Fat Controller about your problems?" Oliver just grew unhappier, and he was rough with the truck.
He loves playing jokes, but they can get him into trouble. One morning, he was very cheeky indeed. "Peep, peep! Hurry up, Gordon, the train's ready." Gordon thought he was late. "Ha, ha, ha!" laughed Percy and showed him a train of dirty coal trucks. Gordon thought how to pay Percy out. Next, it was James's turn. "Stay in the shed today, James. The Fat Controller will come and see you." "Ah," thought James, "the Fat Controller knows I'm a fine engine. He wants me to pull a special train." James's driver and fireman could not make him move. The other engines grumbled. Duck is very proud of being Great Western. He talks endlessly about it, but he works hard too and makes everything go like clockwork. It was a splendid day. Trucks and coaches behaved well. The passengers even stopped grumbling. But the engines didn't like having to bustle about. "There are two ways of doing things," Duck told them. "The Great Western way or the wrong way. I'm Great Western and don't we know it?" Ray groaned.
Every afternoon, Thomas the Tank Engine puffs along his branch line with Annie and Clarabel. First, they pass the watermill. Next, they come to a big farm. Then, they can see a bridge with a village nestled either side of it. This is a special place. Whenever children hear Thomas coming along, they stand on the bridge waving until he is out of sight. One day, Thomas was running late. He had stopped at the signal before the bridge to talk to some new children. Percy was waiting too. "Hurry up, Thomas," called Percy when the signal dropped. "If you're late, the Fat Controller may get a new engine to replace you." "He would never do that," thought Thomas, but he was worried. Next day, Thomas hurried along the line. Just ahead was a goods yard.